Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on FlyNubianQueen.com, the network for melanated women like you. Be sure to subscribe at FlyNubianQueen.com. I'm Rasheedah Anderson, your host of The Couch, here with Matthew Pfeiffer, who is one of the panelists on The Couch. But today is our one-on-one session, and we are going to be talking about ghosting. Why are you being ghosted in your relationships is what we are going to be talking about in just a second. Before we do so, I'm going to let Matthew say hello and introduce himself to the audience for those of you who may not know who he is and the work that he does. But while we're doing that, be sure to like and share out this broadcast as you come into the room. As you know, The Couch is our weekly podcast where we talk about mental health issues in the Black community. And so dating is definitely something that has an impact on our mental health. So we want to make sure that we're highlighting that in very much relationships in totality. So Matthew, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing very well.
Yes. So introduce yourself. Tell the people a little bit about yourself and your practice, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Yeah, my name is Matthew Pfeiffer. I live in Dallas, Texas, just relocated back to Dallas. This is where I grew up and excited to be here. I have a practice called New Perspectives by Matt Pfeiffer, where I teach people about dating, relationships, and in particular also toxic relationships as well. I'm able to do other things, but that's kind of my bag of business. So
Okay,
excited to
cool.
be here and enjoyed talking to you guys about any type of relationships as well. It can be family members. It doesn't just have to be with your significant other. It can be with family members or business relationships as well.
Great. So again, like the broadcast and share it as you are coming into the room. So Matthew, you had an interesting idea for a conversation today, and you wanted to talk about ghosting. So before we get into why people are being ghosted, for those who may not be aware, because they might be on live and are being ghosted and don't even know. So tell us what it is to be ghosted.
Well, ghosting is a growing. It's nothing new, but at the same time, it's something that is growing. Number one, because our society has become a lot less confrontational, and so people, when they want to break up, even though it to one individual it may seem like things are going really well, they'll literally just stop calling, stop texting, and you just never hear from them again. It's very hurtful, and it's with online dating, how rapidly online dating has grown. It's actually something that is very common in online dating. As a matter of fact, I think last statistic I saw, 80% of people who are dating nowadays have experienced some form of ghosting. So it's very relevant right now.
So what are some of the you said some have some experience of ghosting. So what are some of those things that are done? Some of the actual behaviors?
Well, one of the most common, I don't think that this is as hurtful as some of the other levels of ghosting, but typically when you connect with someone online, and either you swipe right or whatever platform you're on, and you start texting back and forth, and you start to just have a genuine conversation with the person to see if there's any sort of connection. And next thing you know, like you just stop hearing from them. They stop responding to your text messages. They stop, if you're talking on the phone, they stop calling you. This is very, very mild, because you haven't even met the person in person yet. You're not emotionally invested. You haven't invested a lot of time, but people still typically are kind of like, what the hell happened?
Right.
I kind of like this guy, I kind of like this girl, and apparently they must have found somebody else, or they're talking to somebody else, and they're just not interested in me. But most people get over this pretty quickly. The one that is a lot more hurtful is when you are dating, and when you have started to see this person for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and things are going well, and you guys are actually talking about a future. Maybe you've become exclusive with one another,
Mm.
And there's more of a pattern that's developed where you're talking on a regular basis. You're seeing each other on a regular basis. Maybe you go out once a week and, you know, you're staying the night at each other's houses or whatever the case is. And then you don't hear from them anymore. That's
Mm.
a lot more hurtful. And it's a form of betrayal, and it can have an impact, a lasting impact, not only on you, on your self-esteem, but on your future relationships too, because typically you're fearful of it happening again if and when it happens.
Okay, so if someone is being ghosted and you're saying that it can have an impact on future relationships, in what way is that? How is that showing up?
It's so I would it's a form of betrayal. So it will show up in trust issues.
Mm.
It's the same. It would be almost like if someone had been cheated on. You know, if
Mm.
someone had been cheated on, you know, you question whether or not someone is going to be faithful to you in the future. And with ghosting, it's very much the same. You're wondering, like, is this person going to disappear on me? Because if you think about it, if everything is going well in a relationship, and to you, the person, they're into you, they like you, that you guys are going on dates, you guys are talking about the future, and then out of nowhere they vanish, you're always going to wonder if that's going to happen again if you don't, you know, talk to someone like myself and you do some self-reflection on the fact that that's something that was something wrong with that person, not necessarily wrong with everybody.
Right.
The other thing in terms of clinically, it actually activates the same portion of your brain that deals with physical pain. So
Mm.
it can be extremely painful to people that have any type of ghosting experience with someone.
So is this occurring? Um, so it's happening in relationships, when people are dating. Who would you say would tend to be the one who is the ghostee the most? Is it kind of across the board, men and women, or is it something that men tend to do a little more, or something that women tend to do a little more?
It's definitely both men and women. Um, so there's not, at least from what I've seen, there's not a correlation from one or another. But what is relevant is it's actually typically someone who's extremely nice, believe it or not. So someone's very nice. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, and they're almost too nice to the point
Mm.
where they don't want to disappoint you, and they don't want to be seen as a villain, and they don't want to be. They tend to avoid conflict. They don't want to hurt you, or at least they don't want to see you hurt. So if there's any type of correlation, it's definitely with the nice guy, the nice girl, in particular the ones that are overly nice, the ones that don't like hurting people's feelings, the ones want to that don't want to be seen as the person who's the bad guy. You know,
Gotcha. You know, Matthew, now that we're talking, it's been a while since I've been in the dating market on the dating scene, right? But I think I didn't ghosted a few people.
I think everyone at some point in time has been on one side or the other, but there's different. Sometimes there's healthy forms of ghosting. Um,
Okay.
there is such a, you know, I deal with toxic relationships a lot, and when you're in a toxic or an abusive relationship, there's a form of ghosting that I actually call no contact. That's actually relevant and actually very needed in those type of situations,
Hmm.
for your safety, for the safety of your family. But or you know, going back to the online dating scene, you know, you're talking to someone early on and they get overly sexual in the beginning, talking to my ladies, you know, you get an unsolicited dick pic or, you know, body pic or odd requests. I mean, those are very common with the ladies, with men. I mean, yeah, you're gonna want, you don't owe that person an explanation. You know, once they start showing that type of behavior that early on, especially if you haven't met them yet, I think that situations like that, it's actually very appropriate to ghost them.
Mm.
You don't owe that person an explanation. You don't owe them anything.
Right.
Um, so that's the reason why, even though ghosting has a very negative connotation to it, there are healthy versions of it where you have to draw a line in the sand for yourself at some point in time as well.
Right, right. And then I can imagine if someone is doing something inappropriate right off the bat, you know, on the onset of the relationship, and if you even entertain something like that, to say, why would you do that, and allow somebody to give you an explanation and to pull you in, you're setting yourself up to start to now engage deeper with someone that you probably should just walk away from. You're trying to make a relationship with a person that's probably not a good choice for you.
Exactly. And not only that, but you allowing that behavior, you're basically giving them permission to continue that behavior. And even if they may not do that exact same behavior, they know that they can still push that line. And so it can, and it's very necessary to at times to I tell people all the time, cut them fast. I mean, there's you know, unfortunately, I also tell people there's another bus every 15 minutes. You know, if it doesn't, if it's, you know, if someone's showing you that that very early on, I mean, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
And so cut them quick, you know, find somebody else, and that's it.
Right, cut your losses. For those
Right.
of you that are just tuning in, we are talking about why you're being ghosted in your relationships. We want you to go to flynubianqueen.com and subscribe. It is a network for melanated women like you. Also, be sure to check us out on iTunes. You can search Fly Nubian Queen on iTunes, and you can listen to us on the go. So if you're not able to tune in to the live broadcast, you can catch us on a replay on iTunes. If you have an interest in starting your own business, or you want to learn how to earn some extra money, go to flynubianbusiness.com or flynubianmoney.com. And lastly, if you would like to support the platform, you can go to Shop FNQ and buy some Fly Nubian Queen apparel. They got some great mugs talking about Black Media Matters. And you know, our dear friend Vicky Dillard, who has coined the term "Talk Black to Me," hashtag Talk Black to Me. So you can purchase that over there, and it will be a support to the network. I'm Rasheedah Anderson, and you can follow me at Let's Talk About It with Rasheedah on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm here with Matthew Pfeiffer. We are the couch. There's a panel of us who come together and we make up the couch, but however, the panel comes together every third Sunday, and in between I meet with the panelists on one-on-one. So today I am here with Matthew Pfeiffer. And Matt, can you take a second to let them know where they can find you? And then I'm going to get into some of the comments here on social media.
The best way to reach me, best way to find me, I'm most active on Instagram. If you've already followed me on Instagram, our dear friend Ronick West actually got on me to simplify my name on Instagram. So it's simply Matt Pfeiffer Coaching on Instagram, Matt Pfeiffer Coaching. And that's the best way to find me. You can also find me at New Perspectives by Matt Pfeiffer on Facebook.
Okay, cool. Now I'm not reading them in order, but I see what is this? Mujahid Merit. He said no comments. No comment. So that says a lot. That says a lot. When I saw that, that tickled me. I see here we have Janie Cook on. We have Tammy Butler, Craig Mohammed. We have April. Hey, Cheryl. Thanks for joining in. That's my cousin who is joining on. So thanks for supporting. Who we have John in the building. Janice, LaShawn. Yeah. So I think I captured everybody here. I see Glenn who's on. So if you put your names and shout out your city, I'll be definitely sure to try to get to you and shout you out. And Janie says that I've ghosted and been ghosted 100. Yeah, so it sounds like it's something that happens to both men and women. And Tammy is saying that it's a great topic. Yeah, Matthew suggested this topic. Janie says, once you go years of tolerating BS, you are no longer willing to go 30 minutes in the same BS struggle. Yes. Once you get old enough, you don't tolerate as much. Craig says, how do you get back on the dating scene after a divorce?
How do you get back on the dating scene after a divorce? First of all, so you want to actually, there's a couple of different ways that you can approach it. If you kind of have an idea of what you want, first of all, you need to do some self-healing, and take some time out for yourself, reconnect with friends, get back your life, so to speak. Make sure that you're active. But in terms of like meeting people, right? You want to be the best version of yourself. A lot of people ask me where to meet someone. It doesn't matter if you're meeting them online. It doesn't matter if you're meeting them at the gym, but you want to make sure that your life is full. Because you don't, for people who have gone through a divorce, if your life isn't full and you meet someone and you don't really have anything to talk about besides the divorce if you don't have a full life, right? So reconnect with friends, get back into the gym, find like a purpose, start listening to podcasts, start reading. So you have a full life that you can have, that you're interesting again, right? And if you don't know what you want in a person, that's okay, but you definitely need to talk to people. Most guys that I work with that have been through a divorce and want to get back on the dating scene, their social skills are way out of whack. They don't even know how to talk to a lady.
Right.
So what I would do, first of all, for the next several weeks, literally just talk to people, talk to women without any type of goal in mind of trying to get her number or anything like that. Like literally just have a simple conversation, right? And from there, try to get her to laugh, try to, and get to a point where you're comfortable with talking with women again. Because if let's say you've been married for 10 years and typically, if you're faithful, your social skills aren't where they used to be. So you don't even know how to approach someone with the confidence that it takes to attract a woman. Right. Then once you start getting that confidence again, and you'll start to see that women will create a bridge for you to cross. They'll let you know that they're interested. And then you'll know automatically, almost subconsciously, like she's interested. She kind of likes me. Like I can ask her for a number. And so I would say, first of all, get yourself together first. And then socially, just start talking to people. Just start talking to women. Having a conversation with them. I would also reach out to me because there's a lot more to it than that. But
yeah, because someone in the comments said, be sure to have Matthew give out his information before you end. So go ahead and take this opportunity to give your social media again.
Yep, Matt Pfeiffer Coaching on Instagram and New Perspectives by Matt Pfeiffer. Because the reason that's a very general statement, but there's so much more that goes into it because each individual is very, very different. It depends. A lot of it depends on how long you've been divorced. A lot of it also depends on have you already started dating and you just can't find the right type of person. There's a lot that goes into dating again after a divorce, and every person is at a different level. And some people even after a divorce, have no problem attracting the opposite sex. Some people have a problem keeping it, getting into that relationship stage and getting into more of that courtship phase. And then some people have an issue with the actual relationship, so there's so many different dynamics that he could be in. I met with one woman. We've been working together now for several years. She went through a divorce, and when I first started working with her, she was like, I just want to talk to another guy. She felt like she was not attractive whatsoever. She was like, I just want to go on a date. And so I worked with her on the attraction phase. Then, a couple months later, she, called me again. She was like, well, I kind of want a little bit more than just a date and just kind of connecting. So, and then now she's in a great relationship, after going through all three of these phases, but it really depends on the progression that they're in.
Yeah, and I want to take a moment too to emphasize the need to reaching out to a professional, because oftentimes when we end up in a failed relationship, we usually go to our friends. We usually go to people who are just as broken as we are, seeking advice. Right. And they can't see clearly because a lot of times we're speaking out of our pain. we're speaking out of our bad experiences. So we aren't necessarily the best tools to help people, because oftentimes we may need help ourselves. So I just want to emphasize that, you know, for people to actually reach out to Matthew, men and women. Men don't feel any reservations about reaching out, because he is here to help you. This is one of the areas of that he is an expert in, that he highlights and focuses in his practice. So please make sure that you reach out to him.
I actually have more, so to your point, I actually have more material for men, even though most of my caseload is women.
Wow.
I started out only wanting to work with men, but it seemed like more women were coming to me. So so men need the help. Women are the ones that actually come in for the help. So men, like the men that I have worked with are seeing great results. So I highly encourage you to reach out to me.
Yes, yes, yes. I know I saw a comment. Lawrence isn't the one who asked initially about getting back into the dating scene after marriage, but he says that's what I'm trying to do, just have general conversations with no expectations. So it sounds like he's just trying to get out there and just practice again, you know, just maybe trial and errors.
It's hard in the beginning. You know, you're going to have to be bold. You're going to have to be courageous. You're literally, you know, sometimes I'll tell people, even if you just go to the mall and just ask them questions about the clothing with nothing in mind, you know, not trying to get her number, not, you know, because what I don't want is for all these people to start getting rejected in the beginning, and all of a sudden they already lose their self-confidence before they actually hit the game.
Right.
The other thing that I tell people to be careful of is, you know, especially the men. There's a lot of men coaches and therapists out there that teach guys game, right? And the reason why I always emphasize there's 3 levels to this: the attraction phase, the courtship phase, and the relationship phase. It's very easy to pick up a girl. It's a whole different ball game to actually court her, and then it's a whole nother ball game to actually, you know, to be in a relationship with her and keep that relationship alive and going. There's a lot of pickup artists out there, and they'll teach you how to pick up girls and get her number and all that kind of stuff. Once you get her number, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Like you can really screw things up if you don't know what you're doing, and you'll lose your self-confidence all over again if you're not careful. So.
Right. And especially I'm taking some liberties here. I want to say this, and I'm not trying to control where people are in their lives, because I know we are all on a journey depending on our age, just depending on our life experiences, what we have an interest in. But me personally, I think that for our community, in order to heal our community, we need to stop out of the game plan anyway.
Right.
So giving men game, it's like, no, let's maybe teach a man how to be clear about what he wants, so he can be honest when he's engaging with women about what his expectations are and what they can expect, you know, from him, so that he can attract a woman who's on the same level, is not looking for anything more than what he's looking for, as opposed to just trying to run game. Because we're leaving, you know, both men and women, you know, we're leaving people brokenhearted, you know. And then that same brokenhearted person probably has children, and there's just a rippling effect. And it's just another area in our community that we don't need to be trying to have to heal through or whatever, you know.
Right. And there's a saying, I actually posted it recently, that you know, the wounds that we have from other people, if we don't heal the wounds that we got from other people, we'll end up bleeding on people that had nothing to do with those wounds.
Right.
You know, so it's 100% important for us to heal those wounds, and it's also important for us to know what we're doing out here. I mean, we're not taught necessarily how to date, and when you've been married for a long period of time and you're now getting back into the dating scene, and most likely you have kids and you have a career now, you're not in your early 20s, you're not in your teens anymore. It's not as easy as it used to be. And let me take that. It is as easy as it used to be, but the dynamics are different. You know, now you have to balance dating and work and, you know, finances. And I mean, it's a whole nother ballgame.
Gotcha. Yes. A few people have put their information. So we have Janie says she's from Washington, D.C. Raheem is Georgia. Glenn is from Dallas. Tammy is from Dallas. So we got a few Dallas folks in here.
All right.
He's in from Jackson, Mississippi. Let's see. Is there anyone else? There's Esther from San Antonio. So we got a few of our Texas people. We got David is from West Memphis, Arkansas in the building. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you just tuned in, be sure to like the broadcast and share it out. The more that you share it, the more chances of it, the more that you like it, it increases its likelihood of reaching more people. And of course, if you share it, you're sharing it with those who you are, who are in your contact and who your friends and everything on Facebook. So please share it out so that we can bring more people into the conversation. The chat is active because apparently, you know, this is something that's happening and it's not necessarily always talked about from a professional perspective. You know, maybe
most people don't like to admit that they've been ghosted. That's part of the reason why I wanted to talk about it.
Gotcha.
It's embarrassing. You know, flat out, it's embarrassing, and most people don't know you don't get the closure that you do with a healthy breakup. And so when you go, even if you were to go to your friend or go, you don't even know what to say necessarily. You just, you know, they just stopped talking to me. They just stopped calling me. They just stopped doing this. Like, what happened? What did I do? What did, you know, and sometimes maybe you didn't do anything. You know, sometimes you did. There are times where, I can identify some behavior that of the reason I don't condone ghosting, but I can identify why you got ghosted. Right. Like I said, that's not that's not a reason to be ghosted necessarily, but I can typically identify a reason why that person ghosted you.
Gotcha. And listen, be sure to subscribe to FlyNubianQueen.com. It's a network for melanated women like you. Check us out on iTunes. Search Fly Nubian Queen. You can listen to us on the go. Also, you can share out the broadcast there. If you want to learn to earn some extra money or start your own business, go to Fly Nubian Business and FlyNubianMoney.com. Also, if you have an interest in joining the platform, the network is always looking to bring people on. So kings, queens, and children, send an email to producer@flynubianmedia.com. Okay, so this ghosting is like this thing, and I'm glad that you brought it up because I agree a lot of people are ashamed. As we were talking, I realized that I had done it, and I can't think, and maybe I'm sure it's been done to me. I just can't remember. But I can imagine this being something that, well, you know what? I have had it happen to me. And it was a guy that I liked, to be honest. And it felt like there were games being played. Like there was like some control that this person was trying to, there was some power. It was a power play is what I felt like it was. And so initially when they kind of stopped calling, because they were more the pursuer. And so when I just didn't hear from them, I'm like, what's going on? That's weird. And it was like a week had passed. And then I finally reached out, you know, I was like, you know, what's going on? And it was like, oh, I can't talk right now. Then they called the next day and then it was a bunch of games. Well, I stopped calling because of this. And then, you know, we said we would follow up and talk, and then he would disappear again. And then he would all of a sudden I would get a text. And then finally I realized, you know what, this person is playing game. I'm not going to put any energy into this, but that's, you know, essentially what he was doing. But I was really hurt, you know, by his behavior, because I think that I had probably let my guard down with this person because it was the first person that I had actually liked in a while. You know, I had met people and it was like, no, I'm not interested. No, I'm not interested. And then finally this person is like, oh, it seems like we have a lot in common. We have similar interests. And it really seemed to be going in a nice direction. And then all of a sudden it was like, I'm not hearing from the person anymore. And so what do you, you know, it was hard for me to tell my friends who I was telling, wow, he seems to be a really great guy. Now I have to go double back and say, I don't know what happened. He's not talking to me anymore.
Right. Well, I think one thing that you hit on, going back to the different levels of ghosting, and you identified it early on, is that it was a power play for him, you know, and that's when we really start getting into more of a toxic type of ghosting. You know, you really dodged a bullet with him because I'm going to fast forward. Had you gotten into a relationship with him, that would turn into silent treatment. Every time he gets pissed off, every time you don't do what he wants, all of a sudden he gives you the silent treatment, which is actually abusive. Because when you completely shut down and you're shutting someone out, of your life, even though you're with them or living with them or whatever the case is, you know, as a power play, and you know, you're not talking to them until they cave. You know, now this is a, I mean, that's a whole nother dynamic. You know,
Mm.
and you know, typically they do what he did. They come back around, you know, and they try to suck you back in. You know, you know, you and I were talking before where, you know, I call that hoovering.
Yes.
Um, you know, and some people instead of calling this ghosting, they actually call it zombieing, because it's almost like they came back from the dead. You know,
Mm.
the minute that you're like, okay, forget it, I'm done with this, I'm done with these games, all of a sudden, weeks, months, sometimes even years down the line, all of a sudden they pop back up. Like, hey, and they almost act like nothing's going on. Like, hey, what's going on? How are you? How have you been? You know, I've been missing you. Like, what's going, you know, I haven't talked to you in a while. And try to, you know, they act like they didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
And that's what the intent of the silent treatment is, you know, it's for you to think that you did something wrong, the person
Mm-hmm.
who was ghosted, that you did something wrong, and that you'll take responsibility for their feelings, for them being pissed off, even
Right.
though you're not responsible for their feelings, they are. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a very backwards way of thinking, but it happens quite often.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, we were so new. I couldn't even imagine anything that I had done. We hadn't even had a disagreement yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, what could I have done? So that really left me, you know, kind of puzzled. And what's so interesting, like when you said that was a toxic, that was toxic, because he on the surface, he was a good catch
Right.
on the surface. You know, he had his career in order. He was an attractive guy. He was active in his fraternity. He was really, you know, on the surface, a good guy. And, you know, luckily I dodged the bullet, but you can get you can get sucked in by that, because it's the way that it's packaged. It
Right.
doesn't look like toxicity.
Most toxic people on the surface are very good catches, which is the danger behind toxic relationships.
Mm.
Every person that I talk to, I shouldn't say every, most people I talk to that are in some form of toxic relationship, that person, high-end lawyer, high-end doctors, I mean, very professional, very, you know, when you speak to them, very presentable. I mean,
Mm.
when I say the term toxic and you haven't experienced it, most people think that it's going to be someone that's so abusive. You see it immediately, and you know,
Right.
oh yeah, that guy's an asshole and this and that. Like, but it's not the case. When you
Mm-hmm.
see them, it's typically someone that a lot of people like, a lot of people want to enjoy, and a lot of people want to be around. And that's the danger behind it, because the perception is that, well, everybody else likes me, like, so this problem is with you, not with me.
Mm.
And so it keeps that abuse going, and that's the reason why that's part of the reason why people get stuck in these cycles with these people for long periods of time.
Hmm. Let me see. So Raheem is asking, because we talked about ashamed. He says ashamed, yes. He says, how do you get over it?
So to get over, uh, you have to understand that when you've been ghosted, that issue is with them and not with you. And you have to understand also that that's just not everybody. And
Hmm.
I think it's also important to know and kind of identify some of the signs that you're possibly going to be ghosted, or the person may not be as interested in you as what you might think. You
Hmm.
know, what happens a lot of times in the dating world is that we project our own feelings onto people, and they're not reflecting and they're not reciprocating those same feelings.
Hmm.
And verbally, they might be saying something, because going back to what I was telling you guys earlier, it's typically nice people that are doing the ghosting. So they may be telling you everything that you want to hear, but their behavior is completely different. So I think to educate yourself, you'll get over it. Educate yourself on ghosting, people who are ghosting, identifying ways to know that someone's not that into you. You know, you start to realize that they're not reciprocating the phone calls the way they used to. You start to notice that they're starting to back off a little bit without really any explanation. Like, they're not busy at work. They're not, um, just just overall, just a little bit more cold and a little bit more distant. Um, so I think number one, educating yourself, knowing that the problem is with them, not with you, and understanding that there are healthy people out there that are emotionally available and are not emotionally immature like the people who are ghosting. And at some point in time, even though you might be hurt still, you still have to kind of take a risk and kind of put yourself out there.
Right, right. We have Sandra here. She says, I'm a senior citizen, so nothing is happening for me. I'm told senior men want younger women. Oh, well.
It's partially true. There are some senior men. There's a lot of senior men that want younger women, but there is somebody for everybody.
Hmm. Angela is saying, I only get ghosted when I let men know I want to settle down and be a wife.
Then typically that happens. You're doing that way too early.
Hmm.
That's the reason why you're getting ghosted. They're not emotionally ready yet for that.
Mm.
So going back to going back to the like I said, I don't condone ghosting, but that is a reason why some people get ghosted. Is that you start to you start to you start to engage with somebody at a level that they're just not emotionally ready yet for.
Mhm.
People fall in love slowly over time. And if they're not ready for all that yet, and you're saying like, I want to be married and this and that, and they're just not there yet. And because we not just men, but people in general want to be in a relationship, but they don't necessarily want to lose their independence. And
Mhm.
so people start to feel like they're going to lose their independence, and you start to get a little bit too clingy, a little bit too close too soon before their emotions are there, before they completely fall in love, things of that nature. Things like that can happen, regardless if it's being ghosted or a healthy breakup. It definitely can happen.
Yeah, and that kind of conflicts with sometimes dating advice that people are given. A lot of times women are told, let a man know what you want up front. That was the problem. You didn't let him know, and that sort of thing. So how do they strike that balance? I know even as I'm talking, I'm thinking about when Steve Harvey's book was out. Was it Act Like a Woman, Think Like a Man? And he was talking about this 90-day rules and introduce people to your kids right off the bat, just a lot of things that may not necessarily work out so well for people in practice.
Right. Um, I think it is important to make your intentions clear
Mhm.
and date with intent. And
Mhm.
sometimes that in dating with intent sometimes means I don't have any intentions, and making that clear as well. Um,
Mm.
but um, I think it's the way that you present it, right? So I think in the beginning, if you know that you want to be married eventually, right? Um, just because you want to be married doesn't necessarily mean that that person is the person that you're going to marry. So the way that you would present it is like, I eventually would like to be married or be married again, right? But I want to take my time to get there. Like I want to make sure that it's right, and let them in a way let them know that even though that's a goal for you, that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be with them, right?
Mm.
Here's something a lot of people don't really talk about. Most people that you date, it's not going to work out, right? And so when people feel like you're just trying to lock them down, especially this is something that's very true of guys. If they feel like you're dating them with a goal in mind and it has nothing like they're not necessarily special, and you literally just want to be married, and that's you're
Mhm.
just trying to rush to the finish line, you know it's not going to go well. Even if they agree with you, it's not going to go well.
Mm.
People don't want to feel like they're a part of your agenda, a part of like this,
Ah.
you know and on the women's side, they want to feel like they're in a love story. They don't want to feel like you're just trying to rush to this finish line, because what happens when you get there? What happens when you do get married? Now you've
Mm.
crossed the finish line. Now what?
Right, right.
Right? This is supposed to be a
Really,
journey, not this is a journey, not a destination.
no, that's very interesting. And of course, I'm speaking from a woman's standpoint of wanting to be married, and we have, a goal to be married by 30, the biological clock ticking, all of those different things. And so when you start to plan out your life and it's so rigid, I definitely can see how a man is not seeing that as anything special. It's not that he doesn't want to be married or that he wouldn't enjoy being married and that that's not a plan for his life. But it's like, if this is just like a check mark, or you just checking this marriage off your list and not really wanting to experience a person, and who am I going to marry? Is it going to be the person that is the best fit for me and that sort of thing? But just like a man,
Right.
Where is that going to, I can imagine that leaving someone insecure.
Right. Absolutely.
About getting, about being in a relationship with you. Like, what is the future with this person going to look like?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So I see we got Joanne from Georgia, Craig from Washington, D.C., Angela from Fontana, California, Joy from Kentucky. Let's see, we got some. And do you work with people of all ages? I know that Sandra says she's a senior, but do you work with people of all ages?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Angela, you may want to, I'm sorry, Sandra, you may want to reach out to Matthew. You can go ahead and give out your social media again if they want to get in contact with you.
Matt Pfeiffer Coaching on Instagram, and New Perspectives at Matt Pfeiffer. New Perspectives by Matt Pfeiffer on Facebook. I'm most active on Instagram. Matt Pfeiffer Coaching on Instagram.
Right. So we believe there's someone for everybody, and I believe that there are some younger men who are into older women as well. So you don't
That's
have.
100% true. That's 100% true. A lot of times people, I've dealt with people who were very insecure about their weight and, thinking that they couldn't find anyone. And they're blown away by a statistic that I share with them I'm going to get a little graphic here, but when men are looking up porn, they're looking up, the first one that they're looking up is, someone who has like a nice figure. I'll just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
The second most searched is big, beautiful women.
Wow.
So even though you may feel like you're overweight, you may feel like, you might be insecure about that. There's a lot of men out there who find that very attractive. And the reason why I bring that up is that even though you might be older, there's still men out there that find you very attractive. It doesn't really matter. You're still very much in the game. You can still find someone younger, older, someone your age. It doesn't matter. You're still very much relevant to somebody.
Cool. You said that there are some men who are attracted to women who are overweight or maybe plus size women. So why would you say those women aren't meeting men? Is it like what's the disconnect? Why aren't they finding those men who would find them attractive?
There's a plethora of reasons.
Okay.
One could be that they're just not making themselves available. I deal with a lot of women that literally all they do all day, I shouldn't say all day, but literally they go to work and they go home, right? They don't necessarily have a life, so they don't have there's no opportunity to even meet them. And I ask them straight up, who are you supposed to meet? Spider-Man? Is he just going to come in and rescue you from, break into your house or whatever? So number one, they just don't put themselves out there to meet any men. Number two, if they are putting themselves out there and they have a genuine life where they're actually out and meeting and have the opportunity to meet men, they're not creating a bridge for a guy to cross. So here's a big time myth in the dating community that a lot of people don't understand. A lot of women are like, I want a guy to chase me and I want a guy to approach me. He's only going to approach you if you leave a bridge for him to cross. So, for example, if you're not smiling, if you're not, you might be the one to start the conversation to kind of get the ball rolling. Then that allows the guy to know that you're available. When a woman doesn't, what that tells him subconsciously is that you're taken. And so he's not going to. He's going to, and that's the other reason why a lot of women get approached by creeps who approach them the wrong way, because they're not approachable. And the good guy, the guys that are stand-up guys and more respectful, are not approaching you because your presentation looks as though you're taken.
And so they're being respectful.
They're being respectful.
Obviously taken, so I'm not going to cross boundaries here.
Exactly.
And then the one that's a creep doesn't care.
Doesn't care. Right. So women who tell me like they get approached by, you know, creeps all the time. I tell them all the time, you know, you're actually getting approached by 5% of the population, and that 5% is just, you know, they're approaching just anybody, just putting a shot out there. But the guys that are more respectful and would be a good guy for you to date, you know, they're hanging back because you just don't, you know, when I was in DC, a lot of women ride the train to, you know, to and from work. And they tell me all the time, they have their headsets in, they're in their phone, their head is down. Your presentation is that you're taking. You know, guys are not going to talk to you. They're not going to, a respectful guy is not going to tell you to take your headphones out to, you know, to try to talk to you. I mean, no guy wants to be rejected.
Right.
So if you're more approachable, and if you're, you know, even if you go to a sports bar and you do something as simple as, oh, who's winning this game, right? Or who's playing, something like that. That is just enough. That's all a genuine guy needs to get the conversation going.
So if a woman is on the train, is instead of looking down in her phone earbud, she could just be present, what's going on. And if she sees a guy that she might be attracted in, just offer him a smile and see where that goes. If he picks up on that and says, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna try to make an opportunity to say, hey, how are you? And then see where it goes from there. But
exactly.
you have to participate in this, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And if you think about, you know, the old days, it used to be that, you know, the woman would drop the handkerchief, right? That was her creating a bridge for him to cross. The guy would pick up the handkerchief and like, oh, ma'am, you dropped this, and, you know, chase her down. Oh, did I? You know, and then all of a sudden that sparks the conversation.
Gotcha.
One of my favorite love stories is my grandparents, and my grandpa told, you know, when he tells the story, when he's passed away now, but when he told the story of how him and my grandmother met, he said that, you know, he was cleaning windows at a storefront, and he said that she walked by working her stuff, meaning that, you know, women used to walk with you know, work at, you know, that was how they let a guy know, I'm interested, right? So he approached her, and then, you know, a week later or whatever, you know, he, you know, showed up at her doorstep asking her for a date or whatever the case was, you know. But women do have to participate in this. And if you don't give a guy an opportunity, you know, a bridge for him to cross, he's not going to cross it. At least not the good guys, not the right guys, I should say.
You know, Matthew, I think the whole concept of meeting people, not even dating, meeting people, is a lost art.
Yes.
Like, you know, because where are the women to share with other women, young girls, as they are coming of age? You know, hey, when you're interested in a guy, smile. You might want to, you know, put a little sway in your hips, or, you know, to show him, you know, that you have an interest, or slow down a little bit, or let the man get the door for you when he's, you know, he sees you're walking in, you guys kind of meet up at the door at the same time, or maybe you're a few paces ahead of him and he kind of speeds up to, hey, let me get that door for you. And you, thank you. You know, we're not even connecting. These are opportunities where people get a chance to meet. You know, we kind of have it in our mind that there's like a specific location where people are supposed to meet up on your job, or like right now it's online, but there's so many, there's no limit of places and ways that you can meet someone.
No, there's definitely no limit. You know, that, you know, with guys, they typically ask me, like, they're like, just give me a pickup line. I'm like, there's a lot more to it than just a pickup line. And women ask, you know, well, where do I meet a guy? And it's like, well, there's a lot more to it than just a place. You can literally meet anyone anywhere, you know, at work or on the way to work or wherever, at the gym, you know. But if everything else isn't right and your presentation isn't right, I feel like, honestly, what I do is I'm reteaching people social skills again. And, you know, like you said, it's at this point, it's a lost art, because as technology increases, our social skills are decreasing at this point.
Yes. What is this? Angela says she's 37 and she feels like she's running out of time. And that seems like that could be a trap for people, feeling like that they're running out of time.
Well, not only that, but people who feel like they're running out of time start rushing whenever they meet people. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, where you're trying to rush to a finish line. And people, regardless if they know it, subconsciously they feel it, and they don't like it, right? And because you're on step Z when the guy emotionally is on step A, and people people fall in and out of love slowly over time. And if you don't take your time, it's not going to work.
Let's see. Kenya says, I get frustrated at myself for going to work and coming home. I have to get out there and smile. Yes, Kenya.
Well, so she actually brings up a really good point that I want to touch on. So when you're someone who just goes to work and come home, let's pretend like for whatever reason you do happen to meet a guy, right? You're not very interesting when you meet him. So you go out on a date, there's nothing to talk about, right? So I'm a single guy. Like I go on dates, and people who don't have a life are very boring, right? And I know this, but guys who don't, subconsciously will feel like they have to entertain you now, and they're going to be like they're going to lose their independence, So your life before you meet someone needs to be full. You need to have some hobbies. You need to have some activities. Not only is that going to increase the opportunity for you to meet someone, but it's also going to, when you do meet someone, you're going to be a lot more interesting, a lot more attractive, and they're going to want to entertain you further.
Right. And then Raheem was asking me a question. Have I ever been ghosted? Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. Yeah, I've been ghosted by someone, and we started talking about toxic relationships. So maybe when you watch this in a replay, you'll pick that up. But yeah, we talked about it. I definitely have been ghosted. And then we have Jackie who's saying that I'm 54 and I've been single for 13 years. So what do we say to, because it seems like, especially and I see this trend in just the women that I know, even with my own mother, who has been single for some time, and she will be considered a senior now, but she very much has an interest in having a relationship. And it seems like the longer women are single, they kind of get stuck in a space, because I often tell my mom, she recently moved into a senior complex. And so to my mom, the seniors are too old for her. Right. This is her mentality, right? But she talked about they do activities in the building. And so I'm like, Mom, just go to them, and just for the sake of getting out of your apartment, just go. I'm like, because it's, even if you're not interested in any of them, you may have a friend. They may know someone who you could possibly be interested in down the line. So even if you're not doing it, because you're interested in them, just go and have fun and enjoy yourself. And she got caught up because they were playing cards, and they were playing it with like coins, though. They were gambling. So in her mind, they're gambling, and I don't gamble. I'm like, oh my God, you're so, rigid about, things that really don't matter, that you're placing a moral value on, and it's getting in your way because you're not able to just go and have fun. I mean, like, what's the sin in you taking a roll of quarters and betting a quarter on a game for spades or something? And it's really more about the fun than it is about the money.
Well, even if her value is that she doesn't want to gamble, even if she went up to him and said something corny like, look at you guys playing the devil's sport again. Like, what are you guys up to? Like,
right.
Whatever. I'm going to call somebody on you or whatever. Being playful is 10 times better than her being in her apartment. And I've shared this story before. You actually hit the nail on the head, that even though she may not be interested in him, they may know someone that might be interested in her. So I tell people all the time, you have to be social with people regardless if you're interested in that person or not, regardless if they're in your age group or not. Be open, be smiley, you never know who knows who. So several years ago, I worked at Verizon, and I treated everyone with respect. But one lady came in and went above and beyond for her in terms of customer service and things. I treated her really well. And this happens to me often, typically, but she said she wanted to set me up with her daughter. Typically, when I hear that, the daughter isn't very good looking. But this time she was stunning.
Okay.
And we went out and we had a great time, you know, but had I not, I mean, nothing, we were on two different playing fields in terms of where we were in life. And so like, you know, I don't regret like taking her out, you know, we dated for a little while or whatever. We could still, nothing bad happened or anything like that. But had I not been kind to her mother, who was older, you know, and I had no interest in, like, that would have never happened. I would have never had that great experience. Right. And so you always, you know, you bring a good point when you're talking about your mom, that talk to everybody, just be social. Right. And even if, you know, talk to people, going back to what we were telling that gentleman, talk to people without intent. Right. Just be yourself, have a good personality. And not only is it going to make you more attractive, but when you do meet someone, you're going to be more social, you're going to be more alive, and you're going to be a lot more smiley. You're not going to be socially awkward, which is what happens to a lot of people who do sit back for a long period of time. When they do finally meet someone, they don't have anything to talk about. They're socially awkward. They, you know, they're quiet. They forget how to smile. They don't know any jokes. They don't have any, you know, it's almost painful to watch.
Yes, yes. Another thing with my mom, and I see your comment, Jackie. I'm going to get to it in just a minute. Another thing about my mom, I think she leads with her faith. And I'm not saying that she needs to be ashamed of it, or that it doesn't need to be on the table, or that she doesn't need to express it as something that's important to her. But I think that for some reason, and I don't know what the thing is, and maybe you can respond in terms of from a male perspective, because I don't know what it is about men that would cause them to back away. Not that I think that they are not open to, you know, being a person of faith, or maybe even a person of faith themselves, but I think that, I don't know, it's kind of difficult for me to describe how she uses it, but it's almost like a badge of honor. Like, I'm a Christian, and I'm this, and without her presenting who she is first. You know, my mom, just at the conference yesterday, you know, we were talking about the conference that Dr. Jones and I put on yesterday. My mom attended. And one of the things that Dr. Jones said about my mom, she had the opportunity to meet her. She said, "I love your mom. She has so much fun." My mom is, she's stunning. I always say my mom was the original diva. She really dresses very well, really classy. She has a lot of taste, and just so someone who could have been like a stylist. And she has a great personality. She loves to dance. But if you're telling people I'm a Christian, and it's like it almost causes them not to see all of who you are, and it makes it seem like that's all you are. And it's like, yeah, you're that, but who they're going to engage with is the person who is going to laugh, the person who's going to want to dance when they're at parties, the person who's going to want to have fun. And it's almost like that they don't get a chance to see that part.
Right. Well, the problem with it, there's nothing wrong with, obviously, with being, there's nothing wrong with being a Christian, and there's nothing wrong with having that value and things like that. But when we're talking about a relationship, especially early on, and being attracting somebody, people, the core essence of falling in love is being playful and fun, right? And not that Christians can't have fun, but when you lead with that, or like when you lead with like something work related or something like that, that's not playful and fun.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, typically the ones that are winning on the dating scene are able to show their personality, are able to get people to laugh and smile, right? Typically lead with some sort of corny joke or whatever. You know, like, you know, I think game two of I always use sports analogies when it comes to dating, because I tend to pick people up at the sports bar. But okay, you know, going to a sports bar and, you know, making fun of Kawhi Leonard, like, oh man, his braids look nappy today, or something like that.
Right, right.
Getting people to laugh again. You know what I mean? Showing a little bit of personality is gonna win people over a lot better than, you know, oh, I'm a lawyer, or oh, I'm a Christian, I'm this. And I'm like, okay, well, what's interesting about that? That's, a lot of people are that, you know, so.
Yeah. Jackie says, and she's the one that says she's 34 and she's been single for 34 years. So she says, I've gone on dates, but the man always wants to sleep with me after the date. I don't roll like that. So I wasn't trying to offend you in any way. And she was saying that's not nice. So I'm not sure what was said that you thought maybe we were saying and not and that you said wasn't being nice. But I was just trying to capture, women as they're starting to move into middle age. And even for my mom, not that you're a senior, my mom is considered a senior, the challenges when, they've been single for a while. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with you, but I'm just saying that there may be a pattern of behavior or something that's causing, you to remain single. And I'm not saying that there's something wrong with you if you want to respond to her statement, I can read it.
I took it as that she meant that it's not nice that they're trying to sleep with her after the first date or something.
Well, she said that's not nice first. She said that first. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of men trying to sleep with women, there's a balance, and a lot of women will cut a guy off a lot of times, honestly, too quick when it comes to the minute that they approach them sexually.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you don't, if someone before you've even met them and they're sending you inappropriate pictures, like I said, go ahead and cut them off and things of that nature. But if you've been on a couple of dates and a guy shoots his shot, yeah, as a lady, you might want to slap his hand and whatever, but it may not be time to cut him off yet. Because what a lot of women don't understand is that that's how a guy connects. Women fall in love with their ears, men fall in love with their eyes. And there's nothing wrong with telling the guy no and seeing how he reacts first, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a deal breaker, especially early on, especially if he approaches it appropriately. And when it comes to sex and dating, I don't want to say it's complicated, but at the same time, you want to show him that you're not a prude, but at the same time, you want to let him know, like, hey, that'll happen eventually, but not right now, right? And you'll actually become more attractive to him if and when that happens.
Right. Keisha says, and she's responding, she's to me, I guess, she says, yes, because she is a woman of God. Speaking of my mother, she puts him first. And with that, she needs a man who can pray with her and go to war with her. So she needs an equal in her relationship.
I agree with her that if that's important to your mother or to any Christian, that the values need to be the same in terms of compatibility. However, you're not going to meet someone leading with that. You might meet someone, but even so, here's part of the issue with leading with that is that even two Christians, I mean, the divorce rate in the church is 50%, right? So you can pray with someone, you can be, you can both go to church together, you can both, pray together, things of that nature, both read the Bible together and still not be very compatible. Because that's only 10% of your relationship. Both can put God first, but if you don't like hanging around with each other, there's a lot of, I'm a Christian, but there's a lot of Christians that I don't like very much, that just aren't fun, we just don't vibe very, very well together, or whatever the case is. So the problem, a lot of times people make this mistake, especially Christians or people who who have a very strong opinion about something. That's like, as long as the person is a Christian, like we will work out. That's not necessarily the case. There's a lot more to it than just that, even though that may be important to you.
Right. Okay, Jackie, I get what you're saying. It was about another comment. Okay. Carmen says, absolutely agree with your last comment, Rasheedah. I thought I was just being forthright, but telling them I'm a minister up front or in a profile seemed to be turning them off from even wanting to know me more.
I can see that. I can actually relate.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people, speak from experience. So I have a lot of empathy for her because a lot of times when I tell people I'm a relationship therapist, it turns people off too, because they feel like they're going to be a know-it-all and things like that. And um, there's nothing, I don't want to say hiding it, but there's nothing wrong with not presenting that right up front, right? And allowing for some of that to come out later on after, on the date, and being a little bit mysterious, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can say something like, you work at a church or whatever, and then allowing for some of that stuff to unfold as you go along. Because not just with guys, but with women as well, things like that can be very intimidating. Until people see your personality, that there's a lot of assumptions that go along with certain career choices, or and it's the same thing like if someone is very, very wealthy, sometimes you may not necessarily want to present that in the beginning because you don't want someone to use you for your money, right? So there's some things that you might want to not necessarily hide or put on the back burner, but just allow for them to unfold as you get to know the person and as they get to know you, because they'll see that like there's more to her than just her being a minister.
Right. Jackie says, amen, but most don't like to take no for an answer. And I think she's going back to what you were saying, where you were saying not now, but we'll get to that eventually. And I think to your point, you're saying those are guys you don't want to be dealing with anyway.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So if they're not taking no for an answer, I mean, yeah, you want to cut those guys out. But she would be, Jackie, you would be someone very interesting to work with, because that also sounds like you might be doing something to attract those type of guys as well. So it would, there's definitely some things I think we could uncover to see what's going on there.
Let's see. And Charlene says, I keep getting us two are not compatible, hardly in no form, fashion, or way. So I guess being single might not feel good. And it's hell living without a helpmate, especially when you need your better half. Oh, well, if one is God sent, I might turn him away thinking it's what I can't tolerate anymore, such as men don't know their parts in the relationship is what I've been getting. So you're running into guys that you feel like who don't know what their role is in the relationship. If Charlene, maybe you can give a little clarity. Were you able to gain?
No, I was a little lost there too.
Okay. So maybe you can shorten it a little bit, and we can see how much we can respond to that. So Keisha is saying, of course, we can have fun and go out and have fun and communicate to know a person. Yes. And so that's all we're saying, Keisha, is that let the person get to know who you are. Like Matthew was saying, people fall in love. It's the fun. It's the playfulness, and my mom is very much those things. I mean, we sit around and have conversations and she's laughing, but I hear her on the phone with people that she's meeting. And I'm thinking, well, gosh, she sounds so serious, it seems like, wow, is it going to be serious like this all the time? I remember even a period in my life when I was in my 20s, I was so serious. I can look back on myself and laugh now, but can you imagine me being like 24, 25, meeting guys and just being so dead on serious with guys that are like my age, but they're running away. Like I wasn't never really a clubber, but people that are in that age group, they are, they go out and party. So just imagine if a guy is someone who wants to enjoy life and he's feeling like, oh, I'm going to be marrying my mom or dating my mom. And I wasn't just serious. I have a very playful sense of humor and that sort of thing, but I wasn't letting that show. I was way too serious. I even identified in myself. That's one of the reasons why I could speak to it in my mom. So yeah, that's all we're saying. It's not that we know that you want what you want, and those things are important, but we're just saying let it unfold, because you're assuming that he's not a Christian or that he's not, a man of God or strong values if he doesn't look a certain way. And so you could potentially be missing out on somebody that you might have a potential future with.
Right.
Let's say, so Joanne said, don't wear your religion. on your shoulder. So yeah, this has been a good conversation. It went from ghosting to people wanted to take an opportunity to get some relationship advice. But yeah, this has been great. Again, follow share this out with the people on your timelines. Share this out, like this broadcast. The more that you do so, the likelihood of it reaching more people is greater. So we want to reach as many people as we can, especially when we start talking about mental health issues. And for this is being a relationship issue in our families. And the Black family is so important to me. We want to do everything to keep the Black family together. We have a lot of singles out here, both men and women. Single men who are looking for a woman and single women who are looking for a man. We just need y'all to find each other. So we want you guys to be healthy. So that's why it's important that we have these relationship conversations and that you avoid a lot of the toxic behavior, a lot of the ghosting, and a lot of the unnecessary things. So please, 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 please reach out to Matthew if you feel that you can use his services, especially like he meets with women and men from all backgrounds, from all age groups. So please reach out to him because he has had some success in the past and he may be able to help you overcome some hurdles and help you to identify some of the patterns. Just maybe some simple little adjustments that you may need to make, and all things will be good. So listen, as I'm leaving, subscribe to FlyNubianQueen.com, the network for melanated women like you. Remember, we are on iTunes and you can listen to us on the go. Search Fly Nubian Queen there. Remember to text Queens to 31996. That's Queens to 31996. I am Rasheedah Anderson. You can follow me at Let's Talk About It with Rasheedah on Instagram and on Facebook. And Matthew, I will leave you with the final comments, and you can also give them your social media as we are departing.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Matthew Pfeiffer. You can find me on Instagram, Matt Pfeiffer Coaching. And that's where I'm most active, or on Facebook, New Perspectives by Matt Pfeiffer. And my final closing is, because I think majority of this we were talking about relationship, or finding the right person and things like that. Love in its most basic element is playful and fun, and I know that people tend to be a little bit more defensive in the beginning because they don't want to be hurt. A lot of times, especially at our age, people, once you hit your 30s plus, you've been hurt before, so you don't want for it to happen again. Unfortunately, you do have to put yourself out there a little bit, and you do have to put, you do have to, for the ladies, you have to kiss a couple of frogs to get to the prince. For the guys, you have to slay a couple of dragons to get to the princess. So unfortunately, heartbreak is a part of dating. But when you work with someone like myself and you work and you do some self-development, you can minimize the heartbreak, and you can minimize the amount of toxic people, or the bad guys, bad girls that you guys are running into, and kind of identify a lot of that in the beginning, so you don't go down that path again. But it's no excuse to not be personable and be respectful to people as you're meeting people.
They're asking for your contact info again.
Matt Pfeiffer Coaching on Instagram, and New Perspectives by Matt Pfeiffer on Facebook.
Yes. And thank you guys so much. You made the conversation very engaging by coming in the chat and being engaged in the conversation. So thank you guys for just tuning in with us and sharing out the broadcast and supporting the platform. It is much appreciated. Again, I am Rasheedah Anderson here with Matthew Pfeiffer, and we are The Couch. We will see you next Sunday, same time, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. I will be on, I believe I will be on with another panelist next week. It won't be Matthew, but you'll see Matthew again on maybe not third Sunday, because I think that's going to be Father's Day. But just stay tuned. Just look for us, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern on UBN. FlyNubianQueen.com. And until next time, it's been great, Matthew. See you soon.
You too.